Figured it was about time to give you another updated 2015 NFL mock draft. And if you check out the description box down below, you will see a three-round edition right there down below. And I believe I'll have enough room in the description box to even outline each of the trades that I have going on within those first 3 rounds. That's right. It's a 3-round mock draft with trades in each of those 3 rounds. Let's face it. Seeing mock drafts that have no trades is incredibly unrealistic. Now, as far as this year's draft, I'm not sure yet whether there's going to be a lot of trade action in the first 2 rounds or it's going to be a limited amount of trade action. It's really hard to tell. One year to the next, it could really change. There, frankly, wasn't a whole lot of movement in last year's draft. But you go back to 2012, there was a ton of movement. And those were 2, relatively, at the time, viewed as good draft classes, both 2012 and 2014. 2015 appears to be a solid draft class, at least. I just get the sense that there might be quite a bit of action. I could be totally off the mark on this, but I guess only time will tell. Now, in terms of some of the things that you might look at in this mock, you might see Winston going number 1 to Tampa Bay, which I think is pretty much a lock at this point in time. And then you will see Mariota going number 2 to Tennessee. I think there's a very strong possibility that Mariota goes number 2 in this draft. Now, could that be to the Titans or perhaps another team trying to trade up to get him? Yeah, maybe perhaps. I look at it from the Tennessee Titans standpoint, the Tennessee Titans standpoint alone at this moment. And I say, look, you'll see a lot of mocks that have them taking somebody like Leonard Williams, a really good player. I'm not sure if he's the best defensive lineman in this draft, but it is what it is. But at the end of the day, you're the Tennessee Titans. You lack an identity. You lack any type of real franchise player. And the quickest way to turn around that franchise would be to find that franchise quarterback. And if Ken Whisenhunt is such a quarterback guru, if Ken Whisenhunt is such an offensive genius, then you should be able to take the opportunity to take somebody like a Mariota, who he said himself recently he viewed as a day-1 starter in the NFL, and make him into a star. And I think the Tennessee Titans, in my opinion alone, unless they get overwhelmed with just this incredible offer in terms of the number of picks that they could get that could set them up well for this draft and in future drafts, they have to take Mariota number 2. I personally think they're insane if they don't. If the Titans don't take him at number 2 and they take Leonard Williams at number 2, they're just going to be the Titans and nobody's going to really give a shit about him like they haven't given a shit about him for several years. When was the last time anybody really gave a shit about the Tennessee Titans? Steve McNair's time. They found that franchise quarterback, a guy way back in the day, mind you, that came from good old Alcorn State, was the 3rd overall pick, and a lot of people were like, well, I'm not sure how his skills are going to really translate to the NFL level. The point being is the Titans need that type of guy. As much as any team in the NFL, they need that guy. They need some type of identity, and Mariota gives them that identity. In a lot of ways, to me, anticipating that Winston and Mariota are going to be the top 2 picks, I think the draft really begins at number 3 with the Jacksonville Jaguars. If, let's say, the Tennessee Titans did not take Mariota number 2, then that number 3 pick is in play, and I would be stunned if the Jaguars stayed at number 3. If Mariota goes number 2, then you look at the Jaguars, they could go a bunch of different directions. I know in a previous mock I had them taking Kevin White. That's a very big possibility. They could take Leonard Williams, even though I don't know that he's necessarily the best fit, and I'm not sure he's the best available player at that point, even though a lot of the NFL draft media might disagree with me. You could look at Dante Fowler. In this particular case, I will look at, and I threw in there Vic Beasley as an option at 3. The reason I put him in there is he might be reminiscent for a guy like Gus Bradley or somebody like a Bruce Irvin, somebody who's familiar with from his time in Seattle, a guy that's very explosive off the edge that could play strong side in a 4-3 that you could bring up as a pass rusher in pass rushing situations, line him up maybe on the line or on outside. You look at a guy like Beasley, somebody they might not want to look at having a big impact as a rookie, but having a long-term impact in their system. A guy like Beasley would make some sense for him there. You'll see, like I said, a lot of trade action here in the first round. Some of the things that will really stand out, I've been telling you for a while that Randy Gregory, to me, is not a top-flight talent in this draft, and that was before any of the crap about him flunking drug tests and being a moron. But this is a guy that is about 235 pounds. You're not really sure how he could fit outside in a 3-4. He's most certainly not a 4-3 defensive end. I'm not even sure he has the weight the room on his frame to put on the additional weight to ever become that type of defensive player as a 4-3 defensive end. And when you look at him, here's a guy that was a lot better as a junior than he was as a senior, which is concerning. A guy coming off of some nagging injuries like having his knee scoped, what have you. I believe he had an ankle injury too. And then obviously the fact that there are just more explosive and better edge rushers in this draft. And you throw in a failed marijuana test, which usually to me would be like, hey, he flunked a drug test, that makes him a star. You know, to me, I've got Randy Gregory going in the second round, and frankly, that's where I view him as a prospect. I just never understood why so many people are sitting there and viewing this guy as a top 10 talent in this draft. I think people are insane. I absolutely think people are insane to think that in this draft class, especially with some of the edge rushers available, that they think Randy Gregory is justifiable to take in a top 10 position. I just think that's insane. You'll notice that I have Shane Ray going all the way down to 21 to the Bengals. I think there's some concern here. Now, I don't necessarily agree with that, but I do think there's some concern about whether he's going to be able to actually play in a 3-4 because of his stiffness in his hips. I think some teams are going to question whether or not he can play in a 4-3 because he is only 245 pounds. They might have fears of him being like an Aaron Maben 2.0, even though I view him a little bit like a Jared Allen type of player. He is a guy that you're going to have to, game plan around to make sure you put him in the best possible situations to succeed. He's not just a plug-and-play guy immediately at the NFL level, but a team like the Cincinnati Bengals getting him at 21 makes a lot of sense. You'll see I have Landon Collins going all the way down to 29 to the Colts again. I think Landon Collins has been one of those criminally overrated prospects in this whole offseason draft process for several months, frankly. I think people now are starting to come to the realization that Collins is more of a 20 to 30 guy than a 10 to 20 guy or even a top 10 type of guy. I think anybody that has Landon Collins mocked in the top 10 is insane. You don't take in the box safeties in the top 10, see Mark Barron. While he's more athletic than Mark Barron for sure, Landon Collins is still best suited as an in-the-box safety, and he's not that type of big-time explosive playmaker that you would want to risk a top 10 pick on for a safety. In terms of other things that you'll see in this draft, Jets fans, I've given you a lot of shit about your crappy organization. You deserve it. And frankly, some of the things you say about your stupid organization, you really deserve it. But I would hope that you would appreciate this olive branch that I've extended to you. Them trading down from 6 to 13 to accumulate an additional second-round pick. Doing a lot of maneuvering in the draft, which is something I might envision McCagnon doing, wanting to accumulate draft pick currency, understanding the importance of it long-term. I looked at what I did here with the New York Jets and their draft, and I got to say, hey, man, this is a team that did a lot of things right, at least in my scenario. Other teams that I would anticipate to be very aggressive and be willing to move. Teams like the Arizona Cardinals might want to move up the board to get Todd Gurley. A team like the Cleveland Browns, I think, in my opinion, as I have going on in this mock draft, they're a team that should explore the possibility of trying to maneuver to get 3 first-round picks. They've got 12 and 19. I think it would benefit them and behoove them greatly to try and trade up from their second-round pick, even throw in a 4th-round pick or a 3rd-round pick to do so and get somebody in that 28 to 32 range. Because by doing that, you're getting a better level of talent than you would have gotten in the 2nd round. You have the draft pick currency to be able to do so. Furthermore, what you're also doing is giving yourself an extra guaranteed year potentially on a rookie contract. Instead of taking the guy in the 2nd round and having him for at most under team control for 4 years, with a 1st-round pick, you can potentially have him under control for 5 years. So you look at that, and I think that's a big reason why the Cleveland Browns, of course, are the Browns, so who knows what the fuck they're going to do. They'll probably screw it up. But they should be exploring that possibility of having 3 first-round picks, trading back up into round 1 to get somebody else. In terms of this, again, I've got, 6 wide receivers going in round 1. You see I've got Breshad Perriman going last in the 1st round. I don't think he's a 1st-round talent. I know he lit up his 40 at his pro day running, 4.24, 4.25. But the fact of the matter is the guy has inconsistent hands, and he's more of an athlete than he is a wide receiver at this point in time. I think he's really a 2nd to 3rd round prospect, but again, he ran in the 4.2s at his pro day. So somebody in the NFL, and who better than the Oakland Raiders, will sit there and pounce on him at the tail end of round 1. It's going to happen. I'd be stunned if it doesn't, because that's the stupidity of the NFL. Instead of watching the tape and letting the tape tell you where the guy deserves to be drafted, and then maybe having what you see in the workouts at the combine and at the pro days and individual workouts validate what you see, you're going to instead use the combine, pro days, individual workouts to determine exactly where you're going to draft him, like you didn't watch the fucking film on him at all. You guys know what I'm talking about. We see this shit every fucking year, and I bet it's going to happen with Rashad Perriman here in 2015. Yes, his daddy was once a wide receiver at the NFL level, but what the fuck does that mean at the end of the day? So anyways, you can take a look at my 3-round mock in the description box down below. Let me know what you think about it in general. Let me know what you like or don't like about what I did for your team. You can let me know all of that down below.